From their arts, we have learned most of what we know of ancient men, and in the arts, much of our own record will be written. True, the Art Institute of Chicago is a museum of fine arts, but it is equally concerned with the decorative arts applied to objects of everyday use. More than 1 million visitors a year enjoy its changing exhibitions. Here, too, the creative artists of tomorrow study the artistic achievements of the past. The Art Institute has 2 directors, Charles H. Burkholder, who supervises financial affairs, and Daniel Catton Rich, Director of Fine Arts, whose steady purpose is to bring the world's finest art to the museum. Successful artistic expression requires an understanding of the artistic achievements of the past. This display of French architectural sculpture presents a survey of 8 centuries in the form of full-scale plaster casts of famous monuments and buildings. The portal of the Romanesque Abbey Church of Saint-Gilles is an example of elaborate detail from the 12th century. The Gothic magnificence of the 14th century is represented in this reproduction of the complete portal of the Cathedral of Bordeaux. Among the most famous works of Donatello, known as the father of modern sculpture, is the huge equestrian statue of the Venetian general Gattamelata. This cast inspires the rising generation of sculptors who study modern as well as ancient masterpieces in their classes at the School of the Art Institute. There are distinguished examples from many lands. The exquisite detail of original ancient Chinese carving commands almost universal admiration. But perhaps this Chinese student sketches from the stone Buddha with a clearer understanding of its symbolism than her American classmates. Among very old examples of ceramic art are these miniature horses of Chinese pottery for burial in tombs. Examples of European sculpture and decorative arts from the 13th to 16th centuries are displayed in a Gothic hall, which discloses something of how wealthy people lived in those days. The architectural details are originals. A French wood carving of the Madonna reveals the perfection of the work of the master carver of Europe. First, to observe, then to imagine, finally to create. These are the successive steps in becoming an artist. Patient practice under able instructors brings mastery of tools and techniques, but the inspired imagination of the truly great artist is more than that. Clay models must begin with a framework of thick wires called armatures. These are bent to conform to the pose of the living figure. They make up a kind of crude but rigid skeleton around which a body of clay is built and developed to the contours and detail which the artist desires. Students learn to reproduce their clay figures in plaster. Successive thin coats of plaster are applied over the clay and then removed in sections to form a mold. The mold, in turn, is filled with plaster, which forms a perfect replica of the artist's original work in clay. A similar process is used if the finished sculpture is to be of bronze or other metal. Figures in marble or other stone must first be roughed out from the block, then finished off bit by bit. Sculptors, you see, must expect to do plenty of really hard work. Among the most ancient of arts is the making of pottery vessels and dishes. Lusterware, a Mohammedan invention, is represented by rare and beautiful pieces made by forgotten Persian craftsmen perhaps 6 or 7 centuries ago. One need not be an artist to marvel at such work as this. Urns, jars, and vases in black or red-figured pottery exemplify the classical art of Greece in the period from the 6th to the 3rd centuries before Christ. Greek tradition is apparent in the design of many pieces produced by famous English potteries of the 17th and 18th centuries. A study collection is maintained where curators help museum visitors to identify their own heirloom pieces. Become familiar with the masterpieces of old. Then strive to create masterpieces of your own. That is the maxim for students of ceramics. It's one thing to conceive a graceful bowl or vase, and something quite different to cultivate the delicate skill that forms it. Under deft fingers, the rough lump of clay takes shape, and its graceful contours rise. Decoration may be inspired by the work of some ancient Persian or Greek or Chinese craftsman, or perhaps by the flowers in a modern garden. The artist's task includes designing, forming, decorating, and firing. The last process gives the ware a glass-like surface and its final color. Decorative fabrics for clothing and home furnishings are the products of another ancient art to which nearly all the peoples of the world have contributed something. Students learn the principles of design, which distinguish good patterns among those of less artistic merit. Guided by their own taste and artistic skill, they draw on their knowledge of what has been done to create patterns of what should be done. They learn the technical business of setting up and operating various types of looms in order to reproduce their own designs in woven fabrics. Printed patterns require a different process. For handicraft work, the design may first be cut in a block of linoleum to be used as a printer uses type. Ink of the chosen color is rolled evenly on the carved block. Colors must be resistant to sunlight and washing. The fabric is spread out smoothly and the inked block pressed against the cloth as firmly and evenly as possible. These girls throw their whole weight into the effort, and perhaps the slim ones do take a little longer time for every yard. The works of master painters lure an endless stream of art enthusiasts to the museum. Here, too, come the students who will be the master painters of tomorrow. To many of them, the very word artist implies a painter of portraits or landscapes. The gallery devoted to Spanish painting of the 14th to the 19th centuries includes El Greco's masterpiece, The Assumption of the Virgin, regarded as the greatest Spanish painting outside of Spain. Dutch and Flemish painting of the 17th century is distinguished by unsurpassed examples of both portraits and landscapes. One of the most famous is Rembrandt's picture called Young Girl at an Open Half Door. Among the Art Institute's special distinctions is the world's foremost collection of the works of 19th century French painters. Some present-day painters have followed traditional techniques. Others have devised adaptations or have created their own. In each, the student finds part of the artistic background for tomorrow. Seurat, for example, developed a technique of applying color to his canvas in minute dots to achieve an effect of vibrating light. The experimental spirit, important in science, has found a place also in art. The paintings of Léger incorporate the shapes of things in a composite expression of modern life. Grant Wood's American Gothic represents a purely American type of expression which has influenced many young artists of today. In their classroom, students of oil painting practice what they have learned from observations of masterpieces and develop techniques of their own. The model here is sitting for a class in costume portrait painting. Each artist sees the same model differently and gives to the subject his own peculiarly personal interpretation. In those differences lies the creative quality which every artist who is not a mere copyist puts into his work. Charcoal is another medium which lends itself to a great variety of delicate effects and to each artist's gradual development of his own distinctive style and method of interpretation. By no means all students are devoted to art for its own sake alone. Classes in advertising design are concerned with lettering and illustration of those attention-compelling advertisements which help to sell the products of industry and the other arts. Inspiration and instruction combine to make artists. Summer classes work in the courtyard adorned by the Triton fountain of the modern sculptor Carl Milles. Here, as in all their classes, students learn the application of decorative art to objects of daily use, knowledge which will help them make tomorrow's world more beautiful for everyone.